In this episode, we speak with Todd Greenbaum, President and CEO of Input One. Input One is a digital billing, payments, and premium finance technology provider that helps carriers, MGAs, brokers, and banks manage the full inbound premium process across the insurance lifecycle. Today, the platform supports roughly $16 billion in annual premium activity, reaching millions of policyholders and insurance customers. Todd joined Input One shortly after its founding in 1984, stepping into the role of president in 1990 before later becoming CEO. Over his tenure, he has focused on operational discipline and customer experience, bootstrapping the business from its earliest software system into a long-running industry leader. I am your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow.
RJ Lumba is the executive chairman of Market Insight Media and the managing partner of GrowthCap. He is the host of Great Entrepreneurs, a podcast for driven entrepreneurs and business owners. Our podcast covers all topics related to the entrepreneurial journey, from ideation to execution to optimization and to reaping the rewards of a well-run business. In the minutes ahead, we'll share with you unique insights and tactics from some of today's most accomplished and inspiring entrepreneurs.
Todd, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's a delight to be with you.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
I think something that's unique in your story and Input One's story is that you've been with this company from the very beginning, and it's kind of a family business, or it has family roots. This is very different than other Insurtech and other fintech companies we speak with. So if you wouldn't mind, can you tell us about those early beginnings, why the company was founded, and how you got involved?
So the company was actually founded or formed by my grandfather. This was in the early 80s. And he always had a technology, slant to him. And he came from an insurance background. He ran an MGA for many, many years. He ran a premium finance company for many, many years. And he's always very excited and interested in building technology that could help automate procedures, but also just unique technologies that allowed people to get into businesses they might not be able to get into very, very easily. So he started this business, and it was funny. Over a Sunday dinner one night, he just said to me, "Hey, I'm starting this business and I need a piece of software to write." And I was 16 years old at the time. And he says to me, I want you to write that piece of software for me. And he said, "Look, I'm a gamer. I don't really know how to write code." He says, "You're smart. You'll figure it out." So I went and I bought a book and I wrote the code over the next 5-6 years and all throughout my college career to do that. And we built the business on that. And it was really just a lot of, honestly, we didn't have outside capital. It was just blood, sweat, and tears. It was put on your armor, run through every obstacle in your way every single day. And to some extent, we do the same thing today, right?
Do you think, I'm just curious, like from a personal standpoint, was it that he was later on in his years and he wanted to work with his grandkid, maybe teach something in the business arena to his grandson?
I'm sure that there was an element of that. It was just very organic. I think he's a classic entrepreneur. He just wanted to do something. He was in his 70s when we started having these conversations, maybe mid 70s. I mean, I certainly enjoyed working with him and learning from him. And we worked together for several years. And yeah, it was really great. And we would be up. He was in his late 70s and we'd be up 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning if the computer program wasn't working right, fixing it. So it was pretty amazing that a guy at that stage of his life was doing that, with me. And I think at the time I didn't really have as much of an appreciation for it as I do today, but I enjoyed it very much.
So you were self-taught, it seems, in the Insurtech space. You learned how to develop. What was the first piece of software that you developed?
Well, my grandfather wanted to build a software that ran premium finance businesses, right? Premium finance. You're familiar with what that is. So he needed a piece of software to do that. And he was an expert in it because he had run one. He'd sold one to a bank a few years before starting Input One. And so he wanted to build this fantastic software system, and he knew he had all the ideas in his head. And I was there going, "What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? And how does this work? How does this work?" And I had the ability to translate language and business concepts into the technological piece. I wasn't taught. I didn't go to school for it. It just came naturally to me, and I picked it up very, very quickly.
We'll hop back and forth as opposed to going chronological. But today, sure. This is a sizable business. To talk about like how many dollars are flowing through your system.
Well, I mean, we have clients all over North America, between the clients that we service, the clients that service themselves using our software, our own businesses that we own. I mean, it's about $16 billion of premium, a couple of million policyholders that utilize or touch the system every single day, insurance brokers, MGAs, carriers, and policyholders. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly a lot bigger than it was just me and my grandfather and my grandmother in a small office in LA. Yeah.
And it seems like your customers are not just the carriers, it's kind of almost anyone in that ecosystem.
That's right. Our products have evolved substantially since the genesis of the business. And today we serve every element of the insurance vertical: retail, wholesale, E&S brokers, MGAs, and carriers. So every element of the insurance vertical can utilize one or more of the products and services that we sell.
And when you break out that kind of mix of revenue, is there one predominant client set? Is it the carriers?
It's probably more MGAs than it is carriers, but they're close, right? They're close on that level. So, but we're not really focused on one over the other because we deal with inbound premiums, right? We built an ecosystem that handles every modality of payment. So everyone needs to deal with the payment. If you're a retailer, you deal with it at some level. If you're an MGA or a carrier, it doesn't matter where you sit in that value chain. Money passes through your hands at some point. And the whole ecosystem in which that inbound premium is collected, parsed up, sent out to all the different parties, that all the stakeholders in a particular policy, that's what we're experts at.
How do you view the kind of competitiveness of the space? I think it sounds like you were probably an early mover. And then as technology got a little bit easier to develop, other players came into the space. And now there's probably, a lot of vendors, an insurance company could choose from. So I guess, how do you differentiate Input One? Is it a case where you've been around for the longest time so people know you and you tend to hold on to your customers? Are you getting market share taken away by new entrants along the way?
Well, I wish it was as easy as you're just around for a long time so your customers stay with you forever. But the truth of the matter is you have to reinvent yourself all of the time, and you have to be really creative, and you have to be constantly developing and creating. Our primary differentiator is the fact that we are the only company that I am aware of that handles every single modality of payment under one platform. So there are three ways to pay for an insurance premium. A policyholder can just pay for it up front in one payment and have insurance for the whole year. They can use an installment plan if one is available, offered by an insurance carrier or an MGA, or they can use a premium finance company where they have the right product at the right price, but they don't want to write that check up front and pay for the whole thing. So there's a finance company that can advance the money to the carrier and then turn that into a loan and create a payment plan with an interest charge. There are premium finance businesses, there are payment businesses, and there are billing companies. I don't know of any company that exists out there that actually does all three. So that's our differentiator. And as you know, if you think about it, insurance is something that you can buy today, and in a year from now, you can buy it from somebody else. You don't have to stay. You don't even have to stay mid-year. You could call up your company 3 months into it and say, something, I'm going to cancel my policy, and you can go buy from someone else. So it's a very fluid thing. So then the question is, how do you keep your customer? So in addition to being a single source for all the modalities of inbound premium, we also focus really intently on customer experience. And everyone says that, and I want to be careful about distinguishing between just saying it and actually having a meaningful implication to it. We really spend a lot of time figuring out, where do policyholders, what do they need to see to create stickiness? Where do agents and brokers need to see to retain stickiness? What does the MGA and the carrier need to have in order for this platform to be highly effective, have a high ROI for the investment that they're making, as well as make their customers want to come back and buy more? And I think that that's really where we focus.
And how does that customer experience translate into, I guess, your team? Because I imagine part of that customer experience is the personal touch. Some of it is digital. How do you, holistically provide a great experience?
Well, you're right. There's a technology piece and there's a people piece, right? And I'm really glad that you added both of those in, because sometimes people don't always think about the fact. They think about, well, a great customer experience is just how good are my portals, right? Well, that's not all that it is, because insurance isn't something like, here's a glass of water. If I want to buy this glass, it's really not that complicated. I just buy the glass and it either chips or doesn't, or it works and it doesn't. Insurance is something that's fluid all year long. Things are changing. So you need to provide a digital element where they can have ease of use, go in there and look at their accounts and make a payment and check the way they want to receive their communications. And, oh my gosh, I forgot to make my payment. Can you guys hold my cancellation for a day so that I can send you the money? These types of things happen all the time. But then there's always exceptions to that rule. What happens if I have a question? I got a notice. I don't really understand what it is or why I'm getting it. I thought I shouldn't be getting this. Well, that isn't well yet handled by technology or even AI, because there's a lot of permutations in the insurance business, and the models are getting there. They will get there. But right now, they need to speak to a person. So we have a very robust operational element on the back end where we are diligently educating our customer service folks, and we're measuring their outcomes, and we measure the tone of conversations, and we're really proactive about it. We use AI agents to help us with that. They say, hey, just this conversation with this particular service rep didn't seem to go well. The client sounded agitated, and someone can jump in right away, or we take a historical element of it and we evaluate that. So focusing on the people element so that personal touch is actually a personal touch that people like and know that they can rely on is really important, as well as the technology.
And I'm curious, did that kind of focus develop over time, or has it been the focus day one, this customer experience versus being more focused on the technology?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think all of us, when we're younger in our years, we think of technology as the be all end all. And if you keep building better technology, you're going to have better results. And what ends up happening over time as you implement that technology and you watch it spread through the organization, you realize that technology is no replacement for operational discipline. And at least today, for human assessment of things. So I think the answer is we probably were overly technology focused, and appropriately so in our earlier years. But now, client experience and really having your policyholder and your broker and your agent walk away going, wow, I really like doing business with these folks. That's a really important thing. So our focus on that is very, very high right now. So I would say it's balanced, but certainly in the earlier days, it was probably more tech focused. And today it's a lot more balanced.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing that may be different between you and maybe other Insurtech companies, have you been mostly bootstrapped and growing organically through the cash flows of the business?
That's right. We've never taken any outside capital. So everything we've done is from our own earnings.
Do you look at kind of other players in this space and see how they're bringing in a lot of capital and figuring out how to allocate that capital out? And you kind of say, well, I've been doing this for 40 years. I can see how they're allocating capital. That may not be the most efficient way. Whereas if you have the bootstrap mentality, or more the I need to generate cash flow mentality, you figure out this balance of like investing in the business, but then also like paying attention to that top line.
So look, being bootstrapped has advantages and disadvantages, right? I've had competitors that have raised gobs and gobs of money, and then you go to the next trade show and their booth is 10 times the size of my booth, and every place they could plaster their name has been plastered, and some of them have grown faster and some of them aren't in business anymore, right? So I think that your point that you made there is really important, and it is that intelligent capital allocation. I'm not stuck in one way or another, right? There's absolutely a universe in which I would say, hey, look, that's the right partner. But you see, it's not just capital. I want ideas and bigger brains in the room, right? So yeah, I mean, we talk to folks all the time that say, hey, look, can we invest in your business? And when we find the right partner that's going to really help us grow, that might want to provide some capital to help us do that work, I'm all ears. But I'm not actively pursuing it right now because we have been very diligent about managing our P&L and growing. We're growing up to close to a $50 million top line. It's not a huge business, but with no capital, there's not a lot of businesses that tend to achieve that scale with zero capital put into it. And we have been able to do that. So I think we have a good process in place, but I'm never closed down or shut down to listening to a potential partnership that could really take that number and quadruple it. Because I think our business could be 5 times the size it is today. It probably should be with the right stewardship and the right capital. It could be. So, we're always keeping our eyes and ears open.
Well, you've done a great job over the years, over the decades. What would you say you are particularly good at to have been able to scale this business?
It goes back to the same thing for me. And I said it earlier, operational discipline is something that really took us a long time to weave into the DNA. We always knew how important running the business was, turning the gears. And like I said, we focused on technology, but no matter how much technology you have, there is a degree of operational discipline that really has to be there for someone to look at this and say, are we doing this correctly? How could we be doing this better? How can we do this more efficiently? How can we do this in a way that engenders a greater amount of stickiness in our business? And then determining workflows and what kind of human capital goes along with the technological capital that goes in there. And I think that we're just really, really good at making sure that we never lose focus on operational discipline, because that's the point at which the customer typically says, I've had enough. It was too difficult to get this done. So I think we're very, very good at keeping that at bay and watching for it and being proactive about it so we don't reach that point.
How much of the operational discipline is like being good at it is attributed to having the right people versus being able to train anyone that comes into the organization?
Well, you have to have great people, obviously, and you have to have intelligent people, and you have to have people that genuinely like what they're doing, right? So we have a culture here that it's important to us that people are really enthusiastic and they understand, what are you trying to do here? What are we as an organization trying to do? And how do we do it as best as we can? So we have very robust educational programs. We have a very robust, interviewing process to make sure we're getting the right candidates to begin with. So it's both, I mean, I'm always more impressed by what someone can learn than by what they can show me they've already done, right? They always talk about, in fact, even if you see interviews, I see it all the time with Bezos and Musk, and they always talk about the fact, and Steve Jobs, they always talk about the fact that your resume is a story about what you've done, right? I want to know, what is it that you can do? So I'm more interested in someone's capabilities of learning, adapting to change, and throwing out new ideas, as opposed to tell me all the things you've already done, because past performance is not indicative of future results, right? So I like to focus on people that way.
And in terms of your management team, your key executives, have they all kind of been with you for a long time? How is it comprised?
Well, the youngest member of the C-suite in terms of tenure with the business is 27 years. So they've been with us for a very, very long time. We have folks that have been here for 35 years, 30 years. We're very proud of our culture. And we've had people that have gotten married here. We have people that have brought their brothers and sisters and children and parents here. So we have a lot of folks here for a long time that have deep industry knowledge. And it's great. It's a really wonderful environment.
Yeah, I really like to highlight, because like many of the companies and CEOs and founders I've talked to, haven't been around as long, don't have kind of like the 30-year employee plus. I think there's probably real advantages to having what you have versus kind of like the one that started 5 years ago and just pouring hundreds of millions of dollars on it. Does it give you a lot of personal satisfaction to have built this over time?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I really love to see when people are thriving, to watch a young man or a young lady start here when they're 18 or 19 years old or 22 or whatever that is, and then move into a level of management that all of a sudden have a team of 5 or 10 or 20 people that report to them, and watch them thrive is really exciting. But at the same time, I like to be very, very real with things. There is an advantage to having someone here and more, or teams of people and groups of people that have decades of experience. But the longer you're with one organization, you can develop a certain degree of myopia and blinders on. So we're making sure we send those folks to technology conferences and services conferences and financial conferences, so that they can see that, okay, you've been with this organization for a long time, but there's a big world out there. So make sure that you're always bringing in new ideas and don't get too narrow in your focus here. So I like to stay cautious of that.
So it sounds like you excel in talent retention. What do you attribute that to? I mean, talent is hard to keep.
It's culture. Like, a paycheck's important. You have to pay for your life. You have to save for your retirement and your future. But people don't want to stay in a position that they don't like. They don't want to work with people that they don't like. And so from my perspective, that retention comes from building a great culture, people that genuinely care about you, that have your back. And we hear this all the time. We are constantly checking for our ENPS scores and making sure that our employees are happy with their current job, their future prospects. And we're talking with them all the time. And so staying in touch with them and creating a future for them and creating a really nurturing and exciting place to work is critical.
Mm-hmm. We're coming up on time. I have 2 final questions. One is, can you tell us about a person who's had a profound influence on you?
Sure. Well, I mean, I would say my father had probably one of the greatest influences on me, because he gave me a work ethic, which, at least when I was going to college and in high school, that was unparalleled. For me, getting up and working in the yard on Saturday mornings, and when all my friends were out on the street riding their skateboards and bikes, and doing that for years and years and years and years, it just kind of taught me a discipline to figure out a way to enjoy the work that I did. And that is a big part of why we are where we are today, meaning still bootstrapped, because when you're bootstrapped, you have to be willing to work really, really, really hard, because you don't have the capital or all the other people to help you along. Fortunately, we have those resources now, but it took a long time to get them. But I have to express my gratitude to my father for teaching me that.
Last question. Can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
I've had multiple family members and friends, parents, friends who have been inflicted with Alzheimer's. And so I'm attuned to that. I'm akin to that. It's something that I like to donate to. I also feel very strongly about supporting veterans and supporting those that defend all the rights that we can sometimes take for granted. So I want to make sure that I'm charitable to entities that support veterans and even active military service people. Those are two things that are very dear to me.
Wonderful. Todd, I want to thank you again for taking the time. It's been a great conversation.
I enjoyed it very much. Thanks for inviting me on the show.